Hey there. Welcome to your deep dive all about Cecile Richards and how she makes trouble in the best way possible.
Yeah, we're diving into a summary of her book, Make Trouble, which is jam-packed with insights from her decades of activism and leading movements.
And the really cool thing about Cecile's story is that it's not just for seasoned activists. It's for anyone who's ever felt that little spark, that urge to make a difference, even if you're not sure where to begin.
Exactly. Whether it's in your workplace, your community, or even just your own circle of friends, Cecile's journey offers some really practical wisdom that anyone can apply.
Okay, so the summary starts with this amazing anecdote. Picture this. 12-year-old Cecile in a Texas classroom straight up refusing to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, I don't know about you, but 12-year-old me was worried about what my crush thought. Not challenging the status quo?
Right? It's a powerful image, and it speaks to something that we see throughout her life, this willingness to question assumptions even when it's uncomfortable. And what's interesting is that it wasn't about blind rebellion. She understood the separation of church and state, particularly when it came to reciting the Lord's Prayer in a public school. It's about having the courage of your convictions even at a young age.
Totally. And it makes you wonder, what were those early seeds that helped her cultivate that inner compass? It makes me think about those moments in our own lives where we had to take a stand, even in small ways.
Absolutely. And the summary then fast forwards to Cecile's college years, where we see her passion for activism really taking shape. It's not just about attending a protest or two. She's on the front lines supporting striking janitors and librarians at Brown University. She's getting her hands dirty, organizing and advocating for those who are often overlooked.
So it's not just about having the right values, it's about actively living them, putting in the work, even when it's not glamorous.
Precisely. And this is where her why, that driving force behind her activism, starts to crystallize. It's about fighting for social justice for those who are being marginalized, and less about personal gain or recognition.
It's that shift from someone should do something to I'm going to be part of the solution.
Exactly. And this leads us to her time in New Orleans, where she really dives headfirst into the world of organizing. She's working with unions, advocating for impoverished female hotel workers who are facing some pretty serious discrimination. This experience really solidified her belief in the power of collective action, of people coming together to fight for their rights.
That's such a powerful reminder that sometimes the most effective way to learn is by doing, by being in the trenches with the people you're fighting for.
Absolutely. And that leads us to a pivotal moment in her journey. She discovers that the Texas State Board of Education, under the influence of the Conservative Christian Coalition, is pushing a very narrow and restrictive curriculum.
Okay, so talk about a somebody's got to do something moment. What did she do?
She didn't just complain about it. Cecile took action founding the Texas Freedom Network. And keep in mind, she didn't have a background in building organizations from scratch. She saw a problem, saw an injustice, and became the solution.
That's incredible. It really highlights that you don't need permission to create change. Sometimes you have to be the one to step up and build the platform.
Exactly. And this experience taught her some valuable lessons that she carried throughout her career. It wasn't enough to be passionate. She had to learn how to build a movement, how to mobilize resources, and how to navigate the complexities of politics and advocacy.
So from founding the Texas Freedom Network, she goes on to establish America Votes in 2004. What was the driving force behind that organization?
It was all about increasing voter turnout and bridging the divides that often paralyze progress. See, Cecile recognized that real change required more than just rallying the base. It meant reaching across the aisle, finding common ground, and building a coalition for change.
Okay, so she's founded two incredible organizations, but her journey is far from over. The summary then takes us to the moment she's approached by Planned Parenthood about a pretty major leadership role.
Right, we're talking about the presidency of Planned Parenthood, a position seemingly tailor-made for her experience and passion. But here's the thing: she hesitated.
Wait, really? I would have thought she'd jump at the chance. Why the hesitation?
It's fascinating, isn't it? The summary reveals that she doubted her qualifications, questioned if she was ready for such a high-profile, high-pressure role. It's something so many of us can relate to, that feeling of imposter syndrome, that nagging voice that says we're not good enough, not experienced enough.
Oh, absolutely. It's that fear of being found out even when you've got the track record to prove yourself.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that the summary draws a parallel between Cecile's experience and that of her own mother, Anne Richards. Now, if you recall, she was the incredible force who became the second female governor of Texas. Talk about a trailblazer.
Right. Anne Richards is a total legend. I still remember her wit and those amazing speeches.
And what's so inspiring about her story is that she didn't come from a political dynasty or have some meticulously crafted plan for world domination. She started as a stay-at-home mom who, as the summary puts it, got fed up with the limiting expectations placed on women. So what did she do? She challenges those norms, head-on runs for office, and wins, defying everyone's expectations, maybe even her own at times.
It makes you wonder how much potential we miss out on, both personally and as a society, when we let those internal doubts hold us back.
Precisely. And that's the lesson Cecile takes to heart. Inspired by her mother's fearlessness, she pushes past her hesitation and absolutely aces the interview. She becomes the president of Planned Parenthood, adding another incredible chapter to her story of activism and leadership.
It's like inheriting that baton of courage and running with it. Okay, so she lands this amazing role leading a huge organization, but I can only imagine the challenges that come with a position like that, especially in such a politically charged arena.
You're absolutely right. And the summary doesn't shy away from those challenges. It talks about one of the most harrowing experiences of her career, defending Planned Parenthood against those baseless accusations of profiting from fetal tissue.
Right, that whole ordeal was just awful. What struck you about how she handled that situation?
Think about it. It would have been so easy to become defensive, to get bogged down in the emotional turmoil of it all. But Cecile, in true Cecile fashion, remained calm and focused. She knew the accusations were false, and she was determined to fight back with facts, not just emotion. The summary mentions how she meticulously prepared for those hearings, compiling an incredibly detailed report accounting for every dollar spent at Planned Parenthood clinics across the country.
She was ready to back up their work with hard evidence showing the world that Planned Parenthood was about healthcare, not profit.
Exactly. And it paid off. The investigations ultimately found no wrongdoing, exposing the accusations as completely fabricated. But this wasn't just about Cecile defending her organization. This was about fighting for the rights of women, for their access to health care, and for the right to bodily autonomy. It was a David versus Goliath scenario, and she stood her ground.
So much of Cecile's story seems to be about resilience in the face of adversity. And this was definitely one of those defining moments. What can we learn from how she handled that pressure?
There's a really valuable lesson here for anyone involved in making change, whether you're fighting for social justice, pushing for innovation at your company, or even just trying to build healthier habits. Setbacks are inevitable. It's how you respond to those challenges that truly defines your success.
So it's not just about passion, but preparation and that unwavering commitment to your values that allows you to weather those storms.
Exactly. It's about doing your homework, knowing your stuff, and being ready to back up your words with action. Because when you're fighting for something you believe in, you're going to encounter resistance.
Mhm.
The key is to be prepared for it and to never back down from a fight worth fighting.
It's interesting how Cecile's story shows that making trouble isn't always about huge, loud protests. Sometimes it's about quiet, determined resistance, like meticulously preparing that report to defend Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the heart of Cecile's message, this idea that if you want to make change, you have to be willing to make some trouble. It's about recognizing that the comfortable path isn't always the right one.
That phrase, make some trouble, is so much better than the old no risk, no reward saying. It's active, it's exciting, and it's something we can all connect with. But I think for a lot of us, myself included, the idea of making trouble can feel intimidating. Like, do I have to chain myself to something? What if I'm not cut out for that kind of confrontation?
I hear you. But that's the beauty of Cecile's story. It's full of examples of how seemingly small acts of courage can have a ripple effect. It could be speaking up against injustice even when it's uncomfortable. It could be volunteering your time or resources to a cause you believe in. It could even be as simple as challenging a stereotype or having a difficult conversation that needs to be had. It's about finding your own way to make trouble for good.
It's about identifying those moments where you can be that voice of reason, that spark of change. in whatever way feels authentic to you.
Exactly. It's about finding your own lane, your own way to contribute to the causes you care about.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is, when you start to look for those opportunities, you'll find them everywhere.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Cecile Richards, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
You don't need a fancy title or a platform to make trouble for good. Start with yourself, your community. Those small acts of courage that resonate with Cecile's story.
Absolutely. So here's a little something to ponder inspired by Cecile's journey. What's one small act of making trouble you can take today to contribute to a cause you care about? It could be as simple as donating to a local organization, signing a petition, or even just starting a conversation with someone about an issue that matters to you. Remember, even the smallest ripples can create waves of change.